So chase or fade for me here first. The Thunder should be demoted to the G League after they lost by 73 points to Memphis, the worst margin of defeat in NBA history, Chirag.
I'm going to fade that just because they are potentially tanking. SGA was not playing last night. This team, Josh Giddey was also out. So I think that the way that they're constructed, they just don't have a lot of talent. And if they get the number one pick, they will. So can't relegate them to G League. But it was an interesting matchup of old teams that moved. So who would you rather have, the old Vancouver Grizzlies or the old Seattle Supersonics? I think we got the Vancouver Grizzlies.
Better now. I want the team that's not losing by 73 points. That's the team I want. As for tonight, dude, we got 5 players above 11K. So all of them are point guards except Kevin Durant at 11.4. So I need you to tell me who you would chase in that group first.
Well, there's a lot of options here because we have to consider that we might have a potential KD rest night because they're playing against the Bulls tomorrow, whereas this game against the Timberwolves is not as hype. We also have to take into consideration there's Luka Doncic, who just came off an historic game against the Pelicans, and they're playing the Pelicans again. So there's a lot of options here, but my favorite guy to chase up here, Steph Curry. I think he's the most expensive player and going to have the lowest ownership because of that abysmal game, 4 for 21 against the Suns. I believe this game in San Francisco makes him the better option. He's going to come out, shoot the lights out, and be able to be the superstar of the night.
Yeah, averaging north of 51 DK fantasy points a game here. Again, you mentioned it. He's the most expensive player on this slate. So in that group, though, of all the pricey players, who would you fade in all those options?
The guy to fade for me has to be Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
$11,000. LeBron's going to be coming back. With his price got bumped up because LeBron was out with something fishy. So now that the fishiness has gone away, Russell Westbrook's the guy I would not be playing at $11,000. His impact is very, very erratic. And with LeBron back in the lineup, it just makes too much sense to go in another direction. But keep in mind, AD is questionable. So it's not totally out of the way, but that's the guy out of the expensive players that I'm looking to fade.
How do you like that Westbrook experience out there in LA right now? Because I know you're a Lakers guy. It's been interesting to watch.
I've been fine with it.
Yeah.
I just think that we need more shooting, more defense. There's just a bunch of guys that want to play offense. Nobody wants to get back on defense. So that's the biggest issue. But the thing is, you needed a guy like Westbrook because we knew LeBron was going to be missing a handful of games. AD is going to be missing games, so you needed that just guy that can go out there and get a triple-double, drop 30 points, do whatever at the drop of a hat to stay games competitive. But it's just a defense that's lacking.
Yeah, and turn the ball over 12 times a game. That's tough to do as well. Net center LaMarcus Aldridge, he has people's attention right now because he's been a solid value play of late here, Chirag. But his price is on the rise, like Mojo Rising, kicking off the month, low salary of $4,000 on these big slates tonight. He's $2,000 more. You still chasing him as a solid value player? You want to fade him in favor of someone else? You're shaking your head no.
No, I have to consider fading him in this scenario because he's $6,000. So is he going to drop 40 or 50 fantasy points? I do not believe so. The minutes don't provide it there. He's not a player that's going to go out there, play 32 to 36 minutes. And at 6,000 at 30 fantasy points, you're like, okay, thanks. These are the guys in this price range. Daniel Gafford, been a monster over the last 5 games, dropping 40 points easily. We have this injury to Bam Adebayo, so now Dwayne Dedmon's of option as well. Also, the Lakers making a lineup change. Frank Vogel already mentioned it. 3,700. Dwight Howard's going to be starting. So there's 3 centers that are already cheaper than LaMarcus Aldridge here. So I just can't chase that high of a salary for a guy that's not going to give me as much upside, whereas these other players have much more upside and are much cheaper.
All right, I do want to go back to LA real quick because LeBron James, you mentioned it. He implied in a tweet that it was fishy that he had to miss 4 games over a 10-day stretch there in the NBA's COVID-19 protocol. And he appears to have been vindicated. He's expected to play tonight against the Crosstown Clippers, who'll also cost you 10-4, Chirag. So chase or fade that it is a LeBron night tonight.
I'm a little bit worried because of the fact, if you look at the game log over the last 3 games, the only game that LeBron really played well was in their last game, which was not an overtime. So they went to triple overtime against the Kings. They went to overtime in their previous game, and the only game he played really well was against the Pistons. Yes, the Clippers aren't as bad as the Pistons, and they aren't as good as like the Suns or the Warriors, but they just have a robust team, good length on the wings, and I just feel like it's really difficult to sit here and say, hey, jam in LeBron. He's been recovered when there's other bigger, better options on the slate. So he's viable. I would consider him for a showdown or a late slate because if you look at the late slate games, everyone's going to go to Curry or these other guys. So I think he makes some sense there, especially if AD is out. So he's questionable. So that's the biggest part of the news here. This is a 10 o'clock game, so we are unlikely to get the information before the game starts about AD being in or out, so that's an option to consider. If AD is out, then you definitely want to consider LeBron.
Yeah, it's just been a rough season for him so far between injuries, most notably that abdominal strain, then he had the scuffle, the suspension. He's missed 12 of the Lakers' 23 games this season. Let's go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook, though, before you take off. No one is favored by 72.5 points tonight. I still can't believe that the Grizzlies actually covered against OKC. Give us a team, though, you'd like to cover on tonight's slate.
I like the Hawks. They've been playing really well over the last couple games. Yes, Joel Embiid has returned for the Sixers, but I just don't think they've found their groove. Tyrese Maxey now kind of having an issue being that main primary facilitator. Seth Curry playing really well, but look at this line, -1, basically a coin flip saying the Hawks at home are going to win. I just think that they're just playing really exceptional. They've won, I think, 7 of their last 8 games and covered a spread in most of them. So I just like a 1-point spread, basically just saying I would pick the Hawks on the money line.
All right, how about a game total you're chasing? Either over or under. Which one are you confident in?
There's been a lot of talk this year about the NBA being an unders league. The DK Sportsbook has kind of adjusted to that, but I still think that this game against the Magic and the Rockets is a spot to attack. Both teams ranking at the bottom of the league in offensive efficiency. Yes, they're also towards the bottom of the league in defensive efficiency, so that means that players can score against these defenses. I just think that there's just way too much variance on these teams. Both basically lottery teams, injured up and down the roster. I just don't think they have enough offense to get over this total.
And bring us home with your slate-approved pick. You lock in right now your favorite bet or DFS play tonight that people need to follow.
I don't know what it is, but there's just something telling me that Steph Curry is going to have a night tonight. And I think Warriors double digits win tonight. It's a gut feeling. Cameron Payne is a decent replacement for Devin Booker. He's out of the lineup, but Cam Payne should step up. But I just think the Warriors are going to show out tonight and win by double digits.